Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Rouge Rugby podcast. My name is Dan Murphy, and with me is Derek Brissett and Stu Hardy. Stu, we're happy to have you back on the show. We missed you, bud. It felt like we were kind of going back in time with just being Derek and I, so we're glad to have you back.
Yeah, you know, that upper body injury shot, just affected like
right there.
Right.
Yeah, I had that a few weeks ago too. Yeah, it just really takes you out of it.
Yeah, it's a direct hit to my wallet. Exactly. So, for the time being going forward, I'll be appearing on every other podcast. So all our listeners are aware that I won't be available next week, but I'll be back with double reviews of Arrows games firmly in the past, catching up on games you've already seen.
We should start doing like a segment where like Stu recaps the episode that we recorded when he wasn't on.
Well,
just to have him continuously involved.
Well, that's why I asked them to do that 2-minute video of the picks, mainly because, on all honesty, I could have just had Stu like text me what he wanted to pick, but we need the toonie.
Yeah.
So like,
exactly,
the visual representation of the
all.
toonie, and it has to be the same toonie, right? Like we can't be cheating and using different toonies and stuff, right?
No.
Then it's just not fair, So we gotta mix in that. You have to give us the mandatory at least 2-minute video, not for your opinions, but because I need the video of the toonie being flipped.
Wow. Yeah, well, it's one of the unofficial media picks according to the MLR subreddit. So.
Yeah, look at that. We're hitting the big time, Mr. Tooney. Well, guys, it looks like the Toronto Arrows have run into their boogeyman once again. The Arrows have once again lost to the NOLA Gold, 22-14. It's the only team, well, other than the Guiltinis, but they're the new guys on the block, and I guess any of the new guys, the teams that they've previously played, the Arrows cannot seem to get a win against them. It is like they are the kryptonite to our Superman. So let's kind of dive into what happened in this game. And Stu, since you weren't here last week, what worked well for the Arrows in this loss?
Well, I just want to say, I don't think it's just New Orleans, the team. It's New Orleans, the city, because the Arrows have now been there twice this season and lost both times there. So, it's that.
They're 0 for 3.
It's that Bayou hoodoo. That's so what works well? I think we can all agree that the opening half was very beneficial to the Arrows, and more of what we've been used to over the past couple of weeks, just splitting the defense by going from side to side, the backs just powering through, as not only proved by Manuel Montero in both his tries, but the back line as a whole was just powering up, getting the ball through. The scrum that ended the first half was the standard that Arrows fans of the past 2019 and 2020 have come to expect, and again, an absolute monster. And then it kind of fell away in the second half. I think,
and we'll get into that later. But was there anything else that you kind of saw that like really like was like, yes, this is something that they can build on and improve?
Well, it's hard to tell. I'm going to stick with the first 40 minutes, and then
I was going to say, I feel like that's how this is how this has to be broken up. We got to talk about the first 40 and then the second 40 later.
Yeah.
All right.
I was going to say, I don't know if you guys or any of our listeners have seen, but Aaron Castro on Twitter saying that he went over the game again and he was analyzing it through and through, and I'll just summarize it. I will recommend everyone to go read his Twitter thread on the NOLA and Toronto game. It was, it was basically a game for two halves, and I just want to say, it's really weird that we've had that twice in the same day of two MLR games, but we'll get to that later. So the thorough analysis, but it was essentially that the thing that worked for Toronto in the first half was also what worked for NOLA in the second half. So I think what can be brought away from the positives is, that the scrum needs to remain in Major League Rugby. I know they've tried to diminish it with the rules, and we've obviously had our opinions on that, but when you have that much strength and that much skill in controlling a scrum and turning it over, especially when it's an opposing scrum as well, that's one of the big cases to maintain it.
So how did you feel about the game, Derek? Like I'll kind of go quickly because I don't really have much to say in terms of what was positive. I think that
it was like 40 whole minutes of positive stuff.
I know. I think that in the first 40 minutes of the game, the Arrows had a pretty cool head. That was something that I've been worried about in previous games. The Arrows kind of, especially in those first two games against Rugby ATL, and we'll talk about them. And also against Utah, it was a big problem. Them losing their cool and bickering with their wrath and kind of making bonehead decisions. I think for this whole game as a whole, there were a lot more penalties for the Arrows, but it seemed to be them just being offside and kind of just defensive penalties that you give up sometimes when a team is pressing. So I was pretty happy with the Arrows penalties that they kind of controlled themselves in the first half. Again, I would love MLR to release what the penalties were and stuff like that as well. All I can see is penalties given. So, I could be wrong. I could look and they'd all be because of, poor discipline. But from what I remember from the game and what I look at from the stats that is available to me, that is what I see. I see that the Arrows did a pretty good job, especially in the first half, kind of controlling the temper. I mean, again, when you're in possession of the ball and scoring two beautiful tries and kind of, pinning the NOLA team down, you don't tend to give up bonehead penalties. So,
yeah.
But what about you, Derek?
Well, I'll just kind of go off that first. It's like, they obviously the Arrows gave up more penalties in the second half than NOLA did, and it was kind of a flip. I think this game's kind of funny in a little bit of a way. I feel like you can write out like everything good that happened for Toronto in the first half, and then you can just kind of like mad lib in NOLA Gold players' names instead, and it'll be a nice summary of the NOLA Gold second half. Like, I mean, like, my goodness, the Argentine winger is having a great half. He's got 2 tries, right? Like, it's, there's a whole bunch of things that you can kind of mix into that. But that Canadian outside center is having a great defensive game right now, isn't he? But hey, that's kind of the way the game went. But to your point though, Dan, it's like looking at some of the Arrows penalties and stuff. I mean, there was a handful of like not releasing penalties, which are breakdown steals, right? So it's like, that's sometimes penalties are just the other team made a good play. That's
exactly.
There is of course too the one offside that was Jason Higgins kicking the ball and then letting it get taken by the wind.
That was just an absolute freak of nature play. That's like, it's like when Randy Johnson exploded that bird when he threw that pitch. Just absolutely strange. Mother Nature decided to take part in the play kind of situation there.
Yeah. That being said, though, like out of the 4 games that were played, Toronto had the most penalties of any of the 8 teams that did play this weekend, and even like Toronto had 15 penalties. Old Glory LA combined for 17. Right. So it's like there was still a lot. I'm just like there was still a lot. A couple of them were kind of big too. Like there was the they had the maul before Dominguez's first try. I believe before Dominguez's first try, they had the line out where Paul Cellini actually stole the ball in the maul, and then it was blown dead because there was some side entries after and it kind of looks like too, like after Cellini had the ball anyways too. So there's definitely some penalties in the second half that certainly hurt the Toronto Arrows. But I think like as a whole, I think yes, kind of touched on it. The first half was really good. The attack looked great, the defense looked great, and they didn't necessarily NOLA didn't necessarily have the ball a lot, but when they got the ball, they put some pressure on Toronto's defense for sure. And there was some decent chunks where they had the ball in the 22 for a little bit. And obviously, like Lucas Rumball, Mason Flesh had that one really big play to hold up Devin Short over the line, hold up and prevent the try there. And so like the defense was playing really well in the first half too. The attack looked really good. Nola's defense was playing like equally as well. So like the attack had to definitely work for it, but they were still playing really well, and they were still able to generate those chances and stuff. Um, they created a couple penalties that unfortunately Taylor Adams couldn't capitalize on, and kept the scoreboard at just 14. But I think, kind of looking at it, it really is. It's just like the second half kind of came out, and like they couldn't touch the ball. There's just like Nola's ball retention in the second half was amazing. And I mean, we kind of look at the game stats at the end of the game here. Nola had 63% possession and 37% was Toronto, right? So like,
Can you and I don't know if you can check this, Derek, with the stats you have in front of you, but do you have what the possession numbers were for the first half?
no, I don't have it at the half. I
Okay.
just have the end. But I mean, like, yeah. It's like, yeah, 63 to 37. That's a significant gap, right? Like that's a big number. Like they just couldn't, whatever they did, they just couldn't touch the ball. They made, the Arrows made 150 tackles in the game at 86%, which is solid. But like, in comparison, Nola only made 75 tackles. Like they had to make twice as many tackles as Nola in order to, and they did it weirdly enough at the exact same percentage. So Nola missed exactly half as many tackles as Toronto too. But I think that's kind of, yeah, it was a weird game. Like, cause
Yeah, I think for me, it's going to be a game of the shoulda, coulda, wouldas. In the first half, like the Arrows did have possession of the ball a lot. And I think that there were a lot of chances, especially coming from the line out, where the Arrows will look back on the tape and be like, we should have scored there. Like their first line out, like they were like 5 meters away from the try zone, and they caught the ball cleanly, and then they were immediately pushed out and gave up possession. And you can't, Taylor missed two penalty kicks in the first half.
Yeah.
Like that, those are points. Like if he made those points, like going in even bigger lead, would that have given them more confidence? Like you can't really blame him for that. Like, kickers miss kicks all the time. But for me, the thing that needs improving is there were opportunities where multiple times, and I use the example of their first lineup of the game, but there were many opportunities where possession was stolen in the line out, or the line out was off. And we've talked about the line out throughout the season, but they were just opportunities all through the pitch that the Arrows just didn't take advantage. There's a couple times where they tried to make these little switch plays. Like there's two from the first half that really like stick out in my mind. I think Taylor Adams tried to make one, and they were really close to the try zone. And I can't remember who the other one was. I think it was either Deanna or somebody. Montero tried to make like another switch play, and possession was switched again. Like they're just like, even though they had all this possession, they scored 2 tries. I feel like they look at that half and they go, we missed out on other opportunities to score, and that might have done them in.
Yeah, I mean, I think
the second half is what it is. Like they didn't play very well.
The second half is just, it's that's why I say it. It's like, I think if you're looking for a positive of the game, I think the attack did well. It's just in the second half they didn't have the ball, so you can't attack when you don't have the ball, right? So I think like overall the attack I thought did pretty well.
So my question to you guys is not having the ball, is that our defense isn't doing enough, or is it as soon as we get the ball, are we turning it over or kicking it away because we have the lead? Like,
I don't necessarily think it's the defense isn't doing enough. This is like the Arrows had like, they got their like breakdown steals and stuff, and they were, but sometimes it's like you get that steal, you create that turnover, and you're close to your own try line, and it's like the go-to move is to clear the ball, right? So it's like if you clear the ball, the other team gets the ball back. So it's like you gotta maybe you gotta figure out the way to get around that and stuff. And it just, I think too, like the thing that helped Toronto a lot, and it helped Atlanta a lot when Atlanta beat NOLA the week prior, was like sometimes like in the first half, it's like the box kick was working really well for them, and they were able to like regather it and gain some like, territory, gain the possession back.
Yeah.
And then in the second half, it started to, I mean,
I also think this is probably
evidence of the ball literally flying behind them after, like it wasn't clicking.
I also think this is probably Ross Brody's worst game. I think that him taking the ball out of the ruck, especially in the second half, his distribution of the ball is a lot slower.
Yeah.
And that might have been Nola being a bigger pest at the ruck with the ruck arrivals. His box kicking wasn't his best. I think that if that's another thing that I think needs improving, is that I think that Ross will also look back at that game and go, that probably wasn't my best game. Like that connection between him and Taylor in the second half just did not.
Yeah.
And I don't think like Higgins was, I think, at that par or maybe a little bit better. Take away that offside penalty kick.
But I think it would, like, that was just weird.
That was just a fluke. But I really think,
but it's also like it kind of sums up the second half of the game.
Yeah, exactly. Are we? Who was someone that impressed you guys from NOLA? Who was someone that, like? Because I got a couple guys, and a lot of all of them are Canadian. The Canadian boys really came out on fire and just absolutely fed them their lunch, and especially in the second half. But even, you know what, Eric Howard in the first half.
Eric Howard was good in the first half. He was honestly, he was probably one of NOLA's best players.
I'm really happy that he had a great game, and Stu, I'm interested to see if you agree with me. But seeing Eric, being on the bench and stuff like that after what he's put in for NOLA in Canada in the last 3 years since MLR's come around, it still makes my heart happy to see him put in a good shift. And his running is so impressive. He's such a stocky, short guy. Him and Ray Barkwell, for like, it's just like they're just two stocky, short guys that are hard to tackle. And like the guy used to train horses or whatever on his farm in Ottawa. Like he is hard to take down.
So Eric Howard actually had the most defenders beaten of all NOLA players in this game with 4. So ball in hand, defenders beaten. So the second was Julian Dominguez, who, I mean, I'm sure we could figure out the plays where he beat some defenders on that one. And third was the other amazing Canadian performance from NOLA in this game, which was Lachlan Kratz. So he had 3. I thought, Kratz, I thought he was amazing in this game.
Kratz was great.
Kyle obviously
Bailey was great.
Like, yeah, exactly. Bailey was great too. I think, like, for Kratz though, I think obviously JP Duplessis was supposed to be starting in the 13 jersey, and then Kratz had to fill in for him, and it kind of looks like NOLA designed their game plan with the fact that JP Duplessis would be wearing that jersey in mind, and then just kind of let Kratz run with it. Didn't change it, and I thought he did brilliant in this game.
Mm-hmm.
I thought there was, he tackled well on defense. He got involved at the breakdown. He had he was at 10 breakdowns. So he got involved in the physical element of the game. He did great with the ball in hand as well. He had 77 meters during the game, which was second on the team. First among all backs though. And he had some really big plays too. Like he had that one really nice offload, or that one nice like run and offload to Damian Stevens that eventually led to the penalty that led to Cam Dolan's the first NOLA try of the game. He had another brilliant play too, where like Ben Lesage was just bearing down on him and connected completely, but he got just enough of the little flick on the ball to keep the ball moving on, and NOLA was able to gain quite the amount of territory and stuff after that too. And it was a really nice example of a player just being like, if I'm gonna make this play, I have to take this hit. Yeah. And he did it to absolute perfection. And yeah, man, it was brilliant to see, like, for that to come out and put up that performance in
your first MLR game,
and probably a game too, based on the lineup announcement the day before. Probably not a game that you were maybe expecting to start either. Just to kind of to walk into that and be like, he is on the MLR first 15 of the week, like on your first go around in the league, man. Like, I don't know what's up with JP Duplessis, but if he can't come back, it looks like Nola's got a pretty good option. It's one of those games where it's kind of like it makes you excited for like what MLR is doing, because
for
like
Canada.
where else would he be playing if it wasn't for MLR right now, right? And to kind of see him put together that game and his like it's amazing to see. Like what an absolute amazing first performance. We're talking about all the great things that he did. If you want to get a little snarky and a little cheeky too, he had a real nice block on Spencer Jones on that final try. But I mean,
you know what, we can't say anything because we probably got a call for ourselves against New York with the Mike Shepard play. We're gonna see those kind of plays until TMO comes into effect.
I mean, you can still, that was,
you can still complain about it.
You can complain about anything, Dan. No one's going to stop you from complaining. It's just people can choose to ignore you or not.
Okay, well, I'm going to choose to ignore you.
Yeah, exactly. But most people do. But I mean, like jokes aside, I thought Lachlan Kratz did have a great game, and I thought like Nola was I think the other guy that really impressed me in this game too, the non-Canadian, I guess, would be Damian Stevens. I thought when he came
impact come off the bench, and like it's so weird because he did that in a previous game in the year, and then I thought we all kind of decided, okay, Damian Stevens is a starter. He showed that he is, and maybe he had maybe a bad game against Rugby ATL last week, or like, I don't get why he didn't start the game. Same thing with Andy Ellis.
I mean, I think Nola really likes Holden Younger. I think he's a good player, a good scrum half. I think
funniest guy on the pitch.
Yeah, he's got some nuts. He's got some chirps. I think though, like when Stevens came into the game, man, like that was to me, like, because to me, even like the first like 10-ish minutes of the second half, like the Arrows like looked a little bit different. Like I think the momentum was definitely shifting towards Nola's favor, but it didn't hit that sort of almost dominant possession number until after Stevens came in. And it was just like it was quick. It was the quick ball. It was the finding guys like Lachlan Kratz able to like open up holes and stuff. Finding being able to run those support lines. So after Kratz opens up that hole initially, he's got somebody to offload to. Nice change of directions on say like the Dominguez is first try or whatever, right? Like being able to identify that, hey, like there's maybe there's a favorable like sort of 2-on-2 matchup with shortened Stevens going toward shortened Dominguez, going towards the corner. I think I thought Stevens did a great job, and obviously too, like he came in and he didn't have a perfect kicking game himself, but he made the clutch kicks when it mattered. He had on when Taylor Adams got his penalty for kind of holding up the rock. I think that was the biggest issue that the Arrows had as far as the penalty count, is they came so fast and so consecutive from each other, and that's what ultimately ended up with.
Well, they looked gassed near the end of the game.
Yeah, like it was just
I think Flesh had a good game for
Mason
for the
Flesh,
Arrows.
yeah, man.
He had a great game, but like near the end of the game, you could tell he was gassed, like hands on the hips, like and like it just like. I think it was just how aggressively hard Nola was running the ball and shoving it down the Arrows' throats. It makes you tired, and that's when the mistakes kind of pull up.
Yeah, I thought Mason Flesh I thought this was Mason Flesh's best game,
and we'll get into that. We'll get into the Arrows. Stu, was there anybody from Nola that kind of stuck out for you? We kind of mentioned a couple Canadians.
Well, the thing is, I would have wanted to say, as an Ospreys fan, Hanno Dirksen. He's normally a winger, but this game he was playing fullback. That obviously went out the window as soon as he got a yellow card. And then looking back on the game, when you see Dominguez's second try, you can see Hanno Dirksen score a try himself, as in he just dives into the try zone and then gets up and hugs Dominguez with all the other guys. And I'm like, what? What was the point of that?
It's a celebration. It's like it's a solidarity try.
It's weird because I don't think I've ever seen him do that at the Ospreys. And I was like, okay, maybe he was like made a trip and he was just going to, I'm going to recover by pretending to. He was walking perfectly fine.
Maybe he was just excited, Stu. Maybe, I mean,
no, he can be excited. It's still weird. It's weird. Right. It's a weird celebration.
You know what? Yeah. In fairness, Dan, I don't think too many guys on the Ospreys know how to celebrate.
Oh.
Ow.
Ouch.
And we no, I'm
going to let that one marinate. It's just hurtful.
Wow. I'm
it's
away
for a
week.
He's just hurtful, right?
Suddenly.
Oh, there's nothing but facts on this podcast.
We've had Jeff Hassler on this podcast as well.
Okay, well then let's get into the arrows then. Who impressed you from the arrows? I think that there's a couple guys. I think that Quatron had a good game. I mean, he's been kind of battling injuries and kind of dealing with Jack McRogers having a great season. So I was happy to see him have a good game. I think that Tommy Della Vega had a pretty good game too. Like he made a sweet play to finishing pass for Montero's first.
He had 17 tackles. And do you want to take a guess at what his percentage was again this week?
100%.
Again.
Dude
doesn't miss, man.
Yeah. So, and it's funny because I think he's just super underrated, especially when you compare to the backline. I mean, Rumble has just been like a ball hawk all season. He's having an MVP season. You got Deanna, who really has picked it up, and he's just been, this ball carrying monster. He's done so well with his ball carrying and dominant tackles and stuff like that. But like Tommy, he's just so well rounded. He does all the things well. He almost is never being tackled for loss. He's always making gains on his carries. Might not be super big like Deanna, but he always does a good job of trying to get a few meters. And he's just one of the best defensive players in the league. So I want to give Tommy a little bit of credit for having a good game.
I still think Tommy Della Vega is one of the best signings in MLR's brief history so far. Like maybe not the biggest name, doesn't have the name recognition of say like a Gidda or a Rob Shaw or or Nanu or anybody, but like I think that was something that really addressed the need that the Toronto Arrows had. And now we're seeing him in a full season for the first time. You can really see what he brings to the club, and he's been standing out quite a bit. And just like you have a guy that can make like 15 to 20 tackles a game and not miss. Like that's a big asset to a team.
Yeah.
Fortunately, Toronto also has two of those guys.
I was going to say to complement the South American backline that we have. I got to give credit to Levis for coming in after Tucolet's bad hit. And, because it's obviously a situation you don't expect to be coming in the, 27th minute?
Yeah.
But obviously it was, slotted in pretty much as well as you could. No colliding with the posts on the way to a try like Tucolet did the previous week. But did his job, and unfortunately, and after seeing Levis in 2019, like split defense left, right, and center in whichever direction he was running, it's a bit of I like to see. I want to see him score a try again because I know it's going to be exciting to watch. But I'll wait until that happens.
I want to see every Arrow score a try again. I do enjoy watching Arrows players score tries.
I do enjoy that as well, especially in both halves. So,
Derek, who was there anybody? I know you kind of mentioned one guy already, but who impressed you from the Arrows?
Yeah, like I said earlier, I thought this was Mason Flesh's best game of his young MLR career.
He's such a strong tackler.
Yeah, had a couple. He cranked Dolan, man, at one point during the game.
He is a hard dude to hit.
I gotta go back and find like the clip and like put it on Twitter. He had a pretty good hit on Cam Dolan.
Honestly, Cam Dolan
also played really well. Cam Dolan had a really good game playing out.
Cam Dolan is my rugby boogeyman. Like either with the US or NOLA, he just always, whenever he has the ball, sends a chill down my spine. Like he's just the boogeyman.
Yeah, he's not fun to play against.
No.
That's for sure, man. But yeah, so like Flesh, I thought he did well. Despite the Toronto Arrows line-out struggles in the game, he did manage to get a couple steals on the Nola Gold line-out too. And had a handful of line-out takes.
And I think we got a shout out to Kyle Bailey for having such a strong game as well.
Yeah, Kyle Bailey and Cam Dolan were, some of the reasons why the line-out struggled for Toronto. Same with Devin Short, I think, had a line-out steal too. Devin Short, I think, was another guy that really impressed me on NOLA. I feel like San Diego is maybe regretting that trade a little bit.
For sure. I mean, their back line is pretty. I
mean, they got a great back row.
Back row, but like, especially when you see it as like, it's almost like it's like Rob Shaw for Short. That's the way I kind of view it, just because of the fact that like that
would only be. I mean,
cash.
Realistically, I think San Diego's back row is good. It's like it's the best part of their team. Mm-hmm. And sometimes a guy has to go, but it's like, I feel like with the way he's been playing, that's going to be kind of one where the league kind of just like, man, we're maybe.
Trust me, as a Leafs fan, seeing guys like Alexander Steen and Matt Stajan go off and have amazing careers with other teams, and Alex Steen winning the Stanley Cup.
Well, the one thing that I always remember is like,
it hurts. I know how they feel
when the expansion draft for the Vegas Golden Knights, and then all those guys that every team were like cut and didn't want just started putting up 40 goals. It's amazing.
William Karlsson,
Jonathan Marchand-Salt, all having career years.
Yeah,
get to the Stanley Cup final. But yeah, exactly. So I don't know. Maybe I don't think Devin Short's playing quite that well, but it's
this season is young. We'll see.
Season is young, but hey, you know what? Something about those teams in gold. Maybe you shouldn't trade guys to them for very minimal. I don't know. But yeah, like I think I've lost my complete train of thought now. Way to go, Dan.
You're talking about Flesh.
Yeah, Mason Flesh. All right. Yeah, so
it's what I do as a host. I distract Derek.
Yeah, distract me. But
what about hockey?
Back on track. So Mason Flesh, I thought he had a really good game. Yeah, lots of big, like you said, lots of big tackles. He was able to defend the line out well, even though the Arrows are still struggling with that. But I also, and he played the full 80 too. And I thought, again, like Lucas Rumball, I mean, I know his team lost, but I mean, if you watch this guy play one game and you don't think he's the best, at the very least, the best, open side flanker in the league right now, I don't know what to tell you watching him play in this game. He had an immense tackle count too. He had I think he had 15 tackles. 15 tackles. Yep. And Flesh also had 14. So that was your top three in tackles, was those three guys. I thought Ben Lesage also played really well. Kind of highlighted that huge hit on Kratz. But there was also, I just think like if you kind of watch Lesage, I think he's probably one of the best defensive 13s in the league. He might be the best defensive 13 in the league, but that team in LA signed some Adam dude and he's pretty good. But yeah, so it's another good, I think that's the one thing. It's like the Arrows' best players are kind of, typically their best guys like Rumball, De La Vega, Lesage, are coming through. I thought Tucle was playing well until he got hurt, and hopefully he's okay. Hopefully Carl Mayer is also okay, because that was that's one of those tough ones where it's like that's a good rugby play, like good contest with a bad result, and hopefully those guys are both fine, and we'll be back on the pitch in no time. Going on, it's like anyone else. So I thought Cortez
Cortez had a strong game, and it's hard because he's been kind of the scapegoat for a couple of games, with his red card and then the yellow card against LA. He's been kind of put up as a scapegoat. Yeah. But the last two games he's really kind of
I thought in the first half too, I thought like Toronto looked to have the upper hand on the scrum. I thought Cole Keith was doing well
Mm.
scrummaging against Dino Waldron as well, which that's a big matchup because those guys last year were two of the best tight head props in the league, and now obviously Keith has switched over to the loose head side. But I thought Keith did well against Waldron in the first half. Waldron's kind of ability to play nearly 80 minutes a night though is a bit of a separator right now for some of the props in the league. But it's he's also like, it's one of those games where it's just kind of like I don't like, to the first half gives you so many like good memories of guys like playing really well.
Yeah.
And then the second half was just like Nola's dominance, and it gives you like those, like some of the Nola players really stick out as playing really well in this game. But yeah, I don't know. It was a weird game. It was like one I feel like in the second half it was just Toronto you couldn't get the ball back, and I think
you know what really that reminds me a lot of their first game, right? Like they had
like their first game. Well, their first game against Nola was first
game of the season, like against Atlanta. They could not get anything together offensively in the second half. And let's talk about their upcoming game. So they've got 2 more games before their bye week at week 10. So they're going a long time before a bye week. Basically halfway through, almost more than halfway through the season. They're before they get a bye. They play Rugby ATL, and then they play Houston.
Yeah.
This next game against Rugby ATL, not only we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about it later, but like it's going to have bragging rights because it's something that they just announced. But also when you look at the standings, like right now the Arrows are 3-4. If they win the next 2 games, especially against Rugby ATL and against Houston, they'll be above 500 for the first time this season.
You know what though,
and the way that the East is looking, that's not important. Like there's a very real chance that the playoff teams that make it this year might be 500. The East might be like the
East anyways.
Might be like the NFC East in the NFL, where like the top team barely had a winning record. Like that's
the two teams that make the playoffs in the West might have a combined 3 losses, but
yeah. So it's maybe being 500 is not important, but this Rugby ATL game is going to be really. I think it's going to be like.
The crazy thing
really
important though in the league, and it's like you do kind of look at it. So I just pulled up the standings on Major League.Rugby here, and so you got New York in first at 4-2-0, with 19 total points
and a game in hand.
A game in hand only on Toronto, though, not on everybody.
Yeah,
Toronto and San Diego.
That's what I'm looking at.
Yeah, game in hand on Toronto. Yeah, and then you also have, in 6th you have Old Glory DC at 2-3-1 with 13 points. So Old Glory DC is like, if the cards fall right, is like what, a 2-game winning streak away from going from worst to first, right? Like
that doesn't give me confidence.
No, it doesn't always happen. No, of course it doesn't always happen. But I think like the East has just. Everyone's beating each other and stuff right now, and it's you're kind of looking at it and like, yeah, I think this is just going to be
this game just hurts
till the end of the year.
Just hurts me more because of the fact that it was an Eastern team, like the LA and the Utah games. Like, okay,
if you lose to the West, I don't care.
That East game.
But I mean, like, if you kind of look at it like right now, like Toronto's, it's interesting looking at like if you can kind of win a game or whatever, like Toronto's point differential is so much better than every other team in the but I mean, is that part of the two blow? Every win is a blowout.
The 2 blowout. Yeah,
and every loss
it doesn't matter. It's a point differential is your point differential, right? It doesn't matter how you get to that point differential.
But when your sample size is 2 50-win games and the rest of them are close games, like
in New York,
those are outliers.
New York's point differential 4-2-0, top of the East, is -41.
Yeah, no, they are going to crash and burn if they keep on playing the way they're playing. I agree with.
But my point is that being the tiebreaker, Toronto right now is miles ahead of every other team in the tiebreaker.
Yeah, good point.
Right. So, like, because you have the New England
Keep scoring tries, baby.
Yeah, the New England Free Jacks are plus 20. So, but I think the point though that really I kind of want just to kind of keep though is like you get back. So it's like you said, if you can beat Atlanta, if you can beat who do they play after Houston? You can beat Atlanta, you can beat Houston. That brings you to 9-4 going into the bye, or 5-4 going into the bye week.
Just throw in a couple wins. Those wins are doubles.
And in all honesty, in 2019, when the Torontos made the playoffs, they were 4-4 after 8 games.
Yeah,
like they were just sitting on 500, true. Right? They are after 7 games, the Toronto Arrows are in the exact same spot that they were in 2019, and that year turned out all right. They went on an insane winning streak and made the playoffs. Obviously, this year's a little bit different. Maybe don't have like that true like homestand. But
which we might have had a lot of to do with that.
Yeah, but I think you got to be able I don't think with the way that East is going, I remember when we did our like season preview, I think we were talking about how like you could probably make a legit argument for any one of these teams winning the conference and any one of these teams finishing last. And I think after what are we on? After 7 weeks, I still think you can make a legitimate argument for any one of these teams finishing first and any one of these teams finishing last. And the East is nuts. Like no disrespect to the Western Conference, but like the entertainment value right now is in the East and the Gill teams. With this league, like that's
I would be interested to look at what's the Eastern Conference's record against the West. That would be an interesting stat to look up.
Ooh, I'm not sure. I'm sure if Stu, if you have anything to talk about, I'm sure we could tell Dan to look that up real quick.
Well, I think the issue for me,
Stu, I'll look it up.
The issue for me is that the way that the bye weeks fall is that we'll probably get the best representation of where we are in the league or where the league is
after the bye week, after the Arrows bye week, right?
Yeah. So it'll be after week 10. So on May 23rd.
I agree. After everybody has the first bye week, you can kind of see a bit easier.
And I'm just looking at the matchups. Is that 3 of them are interconference games, so it'll be like East versus West. So we have NOLA versus the Warriors, Houston versus DC, and Seattle versus ATL. And then we have 2 fixtures that are within the conference. And the one that is interesting for the East is New York versus New England, which, great rivalry that already exists in sport. But the point I'm trying to get at is that those are games that, could determine how we view the Eastern Conference going forward. Because, we can say it's at the halfway stage now, everyone's had a bye week. What does each team now need to do going forward?
Yeah.
And only one of those games has the possibility of a return fixture, which is the New York-New England game. So
I got it, guys.
And that's the thing. All it takes is one missed tackle, which allows the other one team or the other to get an extra try in, and one team will get 5 points instead of 4, or one team will get no points instead of 1 or 2. And that can make a major difference in the long term. Because as I said back when we were talking about how we think the conference is going to go, I think that the East isn't going to be decided by points. It's going to be decided by point difference. And
which Toronto
it's those tight margins that ideally getting the try bonus point and winning is the way you want to go. But it's those, and it's especially when it's something that is out of Toronto's hands. Because that's the thing. Week 10 is their first bye week. Their last bye week is also the final week of the regular season. And at that point, it is going to be a case of Toronto have done all they can, and now we'll have to see how the other teams play.
I honestly have not been paying attention to what Stu's saying because I've been doing math, so I'm just
sorry. I mean, neither.
With them outright.
I will.
Boo! Both of you. Boo!
I'm agreeing with you.
Just so me and Stu can feel like we actually had a conversation here. Although, like Stu, so I do agree with what you're saying for the most part. I think like bonus points, I think are going to be a big deal just because of how tight the standings are in the East. Like right now, you have one team that's above 500, and that's New York. Everyone else is either right on 500, and the Arrows in DC are below it. But I think that's going to be the separator, man. And it's like I wonder if we'll start to see kind of like how the Arrows sort of played in 2019, where they were like bonus point first, and they would just like race to get the 4 tries, and then once they got the 4 tries, then maybe they would start kicking penalty goals if given the opportunity. I wonder if we're going to start to see kind of teams try to do that, just because you're going to need to. And it is also another thing that's probably the most disappointing thing about the Toronto Nola game is that after that brilliant first half, they couldn't even salvage a losing bonus point in the table off of that, which is probably the most disappointing thing about the game in all reality. But
all right, so the East is 7-5 over the West. If you exclude LA, they're 7-2.
Okay.
So LA's winning. That's
That's why I brought that stat in, because it's a little bit more telling when LA's not included. But I mean, again, you take the best with what you got. All right, guys. So we got to move on because we got to talk about some of the other games that happened. I want to talk about quickly the San Diego versus New England game, because mainly there is one guy that really impressed me, and I think Derek for getting me the information. I think Josh Larson had an amazing game. Captain again, the Free Jacks to another win, 33-17. Josh put in the work, third most tackles on the team. He made 17 out of his 19 tackles. He had 18 ruck arrivals when they were on the offense, and 7 ruck arrivals when they were on defense. The 7 were the most for his team, and then overall he also had the most for his team as well. I think that the nice thing about Josh, and why, unfortunately, I think he might be just a utility bench player for Canada, is he's just so damn versatile when it comes to, you can put him in the flank or you can put him in, the lock. He's not the fastest guy. Like he's not a Sam Mooching type of guy who's going to be a power runner and you're going to give him the ball all the time and he's going to make some yards. That's just not his game, but he's so hard-nosed. He makes the tackles. He gets into the ruck. He's going to be a pest. He's good at the line out. And then maybe it's just that New Zealand upbringing, but he's just got that voice that seems to calm refs down sometimes. And he's had to talk to the refs a lot. So good on you, Josh. You showed your brother what for. Travis had a fine game coming off of the bench. He's been getting to a lot of yellow card problems this year, which hopefully they can kind of fix, because he had another yellow card this game as well. So that kind of sucks a little bit. Michael Smith had a little bit more time, came on the 77th minute.
Ooh.
So a little bit more time.
He actually played pretty efficiently once again in that minute too.
So we are still on the free Michael Smith campaign. Get him more minutes. I know, again, it's hard with this lineup. You got Veramula at 6, Sam Mooching, who's having an amazing season, and then we're talking before the podcast was recording about Eagles players, and Tavita Tamala, who's their captain and 8-man, he's been having a strong couple years. It's hard, but this kid is showing that he can be efficient at the breakdown, and
he had 3 ruck arrivals in his 3 minutes, so it's a good pace. Had a tackle, 7 carry meters again. I mean,
what else do you say? They seem to be adding pieces. They got Tion Lutz, who is kind of a really good player for Houston, joining the team, and Cameron Clark. It's just they're so battered. I think Brian beginning of last week showed their injury report. They are battered and bruised. So hopefully they can start being a little bit more competitive, because I always thought San Diego was the bad guy of the league. I wanted them to always kind of do well, and it looks like the other California team's taking that over.
The good team that nobody wants to like, but everyone kind of maybe secretly does. Did you see Travis Larson's Instagram post after the game?
I saw something about coffee. He's a big coffee guy. So
No, has
there's
nothing.
that.
Why would I bring up coffee? That's
I don't know.
irrelevant.
That's the only thing I can think of.
It was his post about playing against Josh Larson for the first time. And it was actually like really touching and nice, and you want to.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, so it was nice. It was actually like they posed for a pick inside the Coliseum in their kit still after the game, and
yeah, I guess that's true. I mean, they've always played like last year. They never got a chance to play each other, and they always played on Austin.
Yeah, so apparently this is the first time that Travis and Josh Larson have actually played against each other outside of their.
Also,
backyard.
two guys said look nothing alike.
Yeah,
like they look nothing alike. It's hilarious. I have really grown to appreciate Josh Larson as a rugby player this season. I think that he just brings so much to the Free Jacks, and I think that he can bring so much to Canada. Like he showed so much. You know, everyone talks about him going to the Springboks and apologizing for his red card and stuff like that. Like
he didn't
good for
accept
him.
the beer though. He didn't accept the beer. He should have drank the beer. Should have chugged the beer.
All right, Derek, you wanted to talk about the LA game.
So onto the other game that happened at the Coliseum. LA, DC, LA, again, another game where the turning point was the bus that was the Guiltinis were on arrived safely to the stadium. And, they just, man, I don't know, like this is one of those games and kind of like looking at the stats. And I think everyone always, kind of gushes over how great and efficient their attack is, which is true. But they played some like really good defense in this game. They had 148 tackles at 93%. So they made life miserable for a lot of the Old Glory guys, especially the guys carrying the ball. Old Glory, it's another game too where LA wins by having less possession and less territory. But it's like when they get the ball, it's there is no team in the league, I think, that can score as fast as LA can from genuinely any situation. That one try where JP Smith pulls the ball out of the breakdown, and it's like your loose head prop is gonna put like a nice little dagger grubber kick through the back line for DTH Vandermerver to run onto. And it's like, I mean, like when you got props being like, you know what, we are so good that I'm okay with kicking this ball and not going to get yelled at by my coach for doing it. You're probably in very good shape as a team. I thought though, talk about some like tackle numbers. Like I said, like the defense in this, like Christian Padoivin made 20 tackles at 100% as your open side flanker. Like if you're doing that, like, I mean, I know like the scrum was 100% to Old Glory 62, right? Like the lineouts were clicking at 93%. They got some steals. It's like if you're clicking at that rate, like you're gonna like on defense and on offense, like offense especially is just because I was saying a couple weeks ago, I think that I was like, after that Houston game, I was like, I wonder if the way to beat like LA is to just shove the attack back in their face, right? Like just go with that like all offense kind of style of play. And kind of watching this game, and I'm like, that probably won't work because their defense is actually really good too. Like they're not racing teams to 50. They're scoring, they're scoring like 40, 47 points while preventing you from getting 20. Right. Like, and it's happening kind of at the same time, like, and you kind of, I think you look at the two Old Glory tries that they did manage to score in the game. Right. And it was like the first try, you had Kalinisau with a really nice heads up play to identify that, after a penalty call, the JP Doyle standing on his mark. And then, the LA defense, maybe not quite as set as they would have liked to be. And he just did the quick tap, dove into the corner, right? Real quick, knowing that LA had to kind of wait for him there, and LA maybe didn't react to it. And then the other try was literally they put like Old Glory puts the kick in the air, and Bryce just drops it. And when he dropped it, it bounced right to DeMonte Noble. Like, I don't even think DeMonte Noble broke stride or changed direction. I think it bounced and then hit him on the big American flag across his chest. And he's got speed to burn. So he took off, and rightfully so. And it's like, it's one of those tries where it's like, oh, all right. Like, what can you do? It's basically an intercept try, right? It's not an intercept try, but it's kind of similar in the sense, like, when LA played against Houston, they had that one try that was, Pengeline intercepted the ball and was off. And then, right. And then that created that try. And like the ways teams are kind of scoring, like I don't know if we've really seen a team figure out how to grind down LA's defense yet either. And I know everyone always wants to talk about the attack and stuff, but I don't know if we've seen it like a proper like grinding out and like beating down the defense yet either now. And I mean, I think it's taken me a couple games to kind of come around to that, but like,
and you know what, but that's not true, because you think about it, like there's been a couple of games where like they've kind of seeped out a couple tries near the end of the game. Like the Seattle game really sticks out to my head
at the end of the game when they're up by 40.
But that didn't happen in this game really. Like,
both their tries were late. Like this was 47-3 at one point, like, or 40 to 3 or whatever, right? Like I mean, I think like that's the thing though. It's like no one, with the exception of Houston, I think, and like, I mean, I think Toronto played NOLA pretty close, or Toronto played LA pretty closely, with the exception of that 10 minutes yellow card, right? But that 10-minute yellow card was all LA needs, because my goodness, do not give this team an extra like one less defender to have to worry about. But like, I don't know. I think that's kind of where I'm kind of like looking at it. It's like, I don't think anybody's really figured out how to, because that was one of the criticisms of LA earlier in the season, was the scrum. The scrum is destroying people. Like Old Glory scrum did not hold up well to this at all, right? And it's like, I don't know, like it's as the season goes on, and it's like, I know like the idea of them going undefeated still seems kind of unfathomable to me, but it's like at the same time, I'm like, I don't know how you beat them.
No,
I'm not
it's
sure.
it's going to take them breaking down. I think that's what it's going to come down to. If they keep playing the way they are, I think the only team that can beat them, and I said this before, is Austin. This game coming up is going New York versus LA. That's going to be a really interesting game.
Yeah, this will be a good game this week. I would be curious in watching them play Atlanta.
Atlanta's the other team I mentioned a few weeks ago.
Play the other team that's like, no, like play, because Atlanta, I kind of love watching Atlanta play, but I think sometimes they're like, no, you guys can have the ball because you're not going to score. It's fine. It's like, we'll play defense.
Look at that again. Going back to Austin, look at that game against Austin. Had the ball for the majority of the game, and they just could not solve.
They couldn't do anything. Yeah,
they had so many chances. It took Isaac Ross.
When Atlanta's defense is on, to like it's locked. It's a wall. It's amazing.
Dino Waldron had to have like the game of his life.
Yeah,
to get a couple tries.
Atlanta's D, if they're clicking, man, it's tough. But other things too, like Canadian performances. DTH, obviously another 2 tries. Corey Thomas played really well too. I know, kind of highlighted that Padoivin had 20 tackles at 100%. Thomas was right up there with them, or like he was third on the team with 11, and he also had 100% with his 11 too. Kind of scary when you actually really look at it. Like it's the like at the very least, if you want to poke arguments on if you don't think LA's defense is as good as I'm saying, their top 3 guys in tackles was Padoivin, Rogers, and Thomas, who combined for 100% of their tackles made. So I mean, that's going to be tough to play. That's not fun to play against.
For sure.
So, and then obviously, so Thomas played really well. Stevens, came off the bench a little early, but I thought he put in a pretty solid game too. So it's like they're kind of rolling. Another game, Old Glory didn't have any of their Canadians in.
And Old Glory just seemed a little discombobulated. I mean,
you know what? I think it's like, how many points can you go? I think like in a weird way, like I wonder how much LA gets in like teams'
People's
heads a
heads.
little bit.
Yeah, you
Like
score
I
that,
wonder
that
because
quickly.
like how many especially like you look at what did they play a couple of weeks ago when it was 21-0 after like 4 minutes?
Was that Seattle?
Oh, okay, yeah, Seattle, right? So it's like, yeah, it's like, what do you like? That's got to be like demoralizing a little bit, right? Like that's a tough thing to come back from, right? And it's like I think they can just I think that's the one thing that LA's been doing really well too. It's like you kind of look at when like they're scoring their tries in bunches and they're doing it at the start of the game,
Yeah.
right? So it's like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like game's over 20 minutes in.
Yeah.
It's just you're just kind of playing out the rest of it at this point.
All right, Stu. Well,
Tough to
how did you feel about the last game of the weekend? You kind of looked at the Seattle versus the New York game, which was such a heartbreaker for Seattle fans.
Yeah. Well, I think after having two blowout victories, both in the Coliseum on Saturday, to then have two turnaround victories on the Sunday, nicely complements. One for Saturdays for the casual viewer, just a tri-fest in both, and this one is more for the purists, but not in the not in the coded way of. No, this. So in the same way of like the opening 40 for Toronto was really like highlighting their strengths and their capabilities, it was the same for Seattle. This was the Seattle of old, the Seattle of 2019 that we thought had long gone. But they came back. Ross Neal, obviously using his experience from being at London Irish over the winter, first try blitz through the defense, made what's his name? Ben. I'm going to say Ben Lesage. That's completely wrong. Ben Foden looked like a dummy by simply just sidestepping him and going the other way. I thought that was hilarious to watch. And then in the 41st minute onwards, it all went back to New York, and it was a case of. It wasn't even so much as a case of they scored more tries, because I don't think they did. I think they only scored two, if I'm correct. It's just that they were able to capitalize on the penalties that Seattle conceded, especially those in the first half. And then obviously the penalty right towards the end of the game that, and it's the same question of shoulda, coulda, woulda for like Kieran Joyce and Matt Turner. If they had scored their penalties, they would be with 4 points at the end of this game. But unfortunately, they only walk away with a bonus point. But it wasn't all doom and gloom. Considering especially 2 weeks earlier they were the losing end of like the biggest deficit in an MLR game ever. So Seattle is coming about. Canadians that I want to point out are, I think the front row for Seattle, the forwards, sorry, for Seattle. Yeah, obviously we got Justice Tiz-Deroux, who was doing everything he could in the scrum and in the line out. Jake Ilnicki, I think, had a good game as well. George Barton and Nick Taylor, they both subs off the bench. I don't think they had enough time to really have too much of an impact in the game.
That is Nick Taylor's MLR debut, though. So
yes,
another one, and he's got the fun distinction of actually being a Canadian that got drafted in the MLR draft too.
Yeah, it's one of the it was. I think you mentioned it was like the only Canadian, and yet Seattle found a way to.
Yeah, of course, because of course Seattle would be the team that does that. Yeah, that was my pick at the time.
Ultimately, I think this was a game that was, the most engaging for fans to watch because it was so close, as opposed to NOLA going 8 points ahead of Toronto, and especially like that last penalty going just wide from Turner. That was, it's heartbreaking. It's absolutely heartbreaking because I believe that Seattle are now on a, let me get this right, 1, 2, 3,
4 games.
Yeah, this is a 3-game losing streak now, but they only have one victory this season, and they're going to be kicking themselves because they knew that they should have taken this game and maybe get back into their stride. Obviously the team has made like some big signings over the past few weeks, so maybe in the coming weeks they'll be fitting into the squad and there'll be more of a turnaround to the Seattle of old. But at the moment, it's just a fatigue, I think, of hoping this team could be like they used to be. They're the only team with stars above their logo because they're the only teams that have won the entire thing. And they're at the bottom of their conference at the moment, the bottom overall. Like, yeah, they're on 7 points total. The next in their league is Houston on 12, and even Old Glory are on 13.
Yeah,
it's hard because you want this league to do well, right? So you never want a team to have a bad season, because that means that fans might not show up, and that means like ticket sales are going to be down, and it's going to have an impact on the club. If it's like the NFL or the NHL, NBA, I'm like, I don't care. That team can suck all they want. They got the roots in the ground to survive. So yeah, I feel that sentiment about Seattle is like, they were. I've mentioned it numerous times. They were my first MLR team because of all the Canadians they had on the team. They've been our adopted team for years. So hopefully they can string a couple wins together for the home fans and make a good run of it. I did want to mention
that's the type of attitude, which is why you must be loving the Eastern Conference right now.
No, and Eastern Conference makes me vomit because of how stressful it is. I did want to mention.
What do you want? What do you want?
I want the Arrows to be undefeated. That's what I want.
You're like, I want
the Arrows to beat NOLA. Yeah. I want that.
I want the Arrows to damn it. I want the Arrows to beat NOLA for once. I want to give a shout out to Dallin Stanford. He had a busy weekend. He called like 3 out of the 4 games this weekend. So Dan Power was off for the weekend and stuff like that. He just did. He's such a fun guy to listen to, and he's done such great work with World Rugby in the sevens and now MLR, and so shout out to him. And the Rugby Network made like a little clip of like all the funny things he said over the weekend, and it's just so good. So shout out to Dallin for having a great weekend. All right, guys, let's jump into the latest news to kind of close up the show. There were a couple interesting signings this week. We'll start with Rooney. Juan Manuel Luisimo signs with Rooney. I'm sure I've butchered his name. Sorry, Juan Manuel. Guys, this is kind of a sledgehammer in the middle of the week kind of signing. I mean, he was supposed to play with Seattle last year, and then visa problems, COVID, that never ended up happening. What does this mean for Rooney? Because he is a like legend, 87 caps 87 caps for Argentina. He's played in almost every league. He's played with the London Irish, Stade Francais, Jaguares. He's been all over the world, so he is a kind of a legend. He's played in how many World Cups? 2 World Cups. Yeah, 2 World Cups. Yeah. How do you guys feel about this signing? Because this is an interesting one, especially with his age.
I think it was 4 World Cups.
4 World Cups. Let's go. 2007, 2011, 2015. Oh yeah. Okay, sorry. Yep. I missed it. Yeah. 2007 and then 2019.
So he's twice as good as appearing in 2 World Cups.
That's what Dan said.
But something to remember is that he was originally signed to join Seattle last year, but of course, visa issues meant that he couldn't join. And then obviously COVID said no to the rest. But this is a guy who has like lived and breathed rugby since he was a kid. I'm looking at he started playing amateur rugby with the Santiago Lawn Tennis Club. If you find that weird, know that most rugby clubs are called football clubs, so it's fine. He's won the URBA championship both years he was in Buenos Aires for with Buenos Aires, and that's where he played provincial rugby. He's got a list as long as your arm of all the places he's played for, and now he's off to New York, and he's getting on a bit. He's a guy who announced his retirement from international rugby after the 2019 World Cup when he was 35, and now he's 37. But he's 6'3", 231 pounds. He's gonna have a bit of an impact. Not only can he provide like the physical prowess that has come with being in like the top flight for the past decade or so, he also can pass his knowledge off onto younger players. And I'd be interested to see, is he going to be a starter? Is he going to be is he going to be an impact sub from the bench? I mean, yeah, this is like incredibly valuable experience, both from a playing standpoint and a learning standpoint. So I think this is an amazing signing, and well done to Rugby United New York. Can't wait to see him play in MLR.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's an unreal signing for New York. I think also too, like kind of looking at their back row with guys like Hermesize and Samison in it. Like maybe it gives you a little bit of that depth too in the event that you have a couple of those Eagles poached during the playoff push. And I know it appears that they might be able to come back. Like anybody that does play for the Eagles or Canada might be able to come back before the playoffs, but we've seen how tight the Eastern Conference is, right? So it's nice that you can come back for the playoffs, but you got to get there first. And I think a guy like Guzman is definitely going to help Rooney out in a big way. And even if it is just a little bit of like passing down the knowledge and stuff too. Benjamin Bonasso too, young Argentine back rower, probably fired up beyond belief right now. That's got to be really exciting for him. And I think it's a great signing for Rooney. There's nothing really to kind of it's always exciting when you have some of these big these big name international legends joining the league. And after we thought he was coming last year, it's nice to see him come in. Actually joining the league this year. Probably would have preferred him to stay in the Western Conference, but it is what it is.
And the other interesting signing is Ruben de Haas has signed with the Austin Gilgronis just until
the test
window has opened up, and then he is out 5,000, which is interesting. What I don't know if it's like, did the Saracens not want him right now? Or I think is that he was released from his Cheetahs contract early. I think that the Cheetahs contract kept him up until, like, I think he's not signed until next season or something like that. I don't know. It's an interesting situation. They've already got 2-3 scrum halves there already. So it's interesting to see where Ruben settles in. Maybe he's just kind of injury cover and just staying fit. But I thought that was an interesting little signing.
Well, so according to America's Rugby News, is that one of Austin's scrum halves, Chile's Marcelo Torrealba, is likely set to head south and join up with the Condores because they have the World Cup qualifiers in June. So it's likely that he's been signed to cover for Marcelo
Torrealba
for that time.
Interesting. Okay.
Heck of a depth pickup to pick up a guy that.
Yeah.
We need some depth. Let's get Ruben de Haas
probably the starter for the US.
We need some depth at our scrum half position. Who's available? Oh, the best scrum half in the country. Sure, we'll take him. I'm telling you, man, Sam Harris playing some 4D chess out there, man. Like the dude's made some moves this season.
And a couple of cups were announced. The Fire and Ice Cup. I just think it's so funny. I think it's so funny that I make one on the face on our Twitter account.
Dude,
I make one joke about Game of Thrones, and suddenly
that game. You ruined that game for the.
I jinxed them. But listen, here's the thing. I counterbalance that jinx by the fact that every Arrows win, I had been wearing my new jersey, so I was counterbalancing that with good luck. and then I must have tweeted that, and I ruined the luck, and it
Ruined
canceled
it.
out, and then I
See,
ruined it.
I think this is a thing that we
But
all
also, I also was setting up for a joke. I'm like, either way, like if they lose, someone's gonna make the dragon joke, which someone did,
of
or
course
it's gonna be like the
See,
wall
that's the
stands.
one thing
I was
it's like I always find funny is it's like people like when you're trying to like chirp a team or use like a pop culture reference to imply that a team's playing really well, it's always good to check the end of the movie or the show. I think like the most famous one, I think like it goes, and this isn't like a rugby specific, it goes to
the
like all sports.
Titanic.
But no, but like the Warriors come out to play. You know what happens to the guy that says Warriors come out to play? The Warriors do indeed come out to play, and that dude gets killed. Like it's not a good ending for
Now I know. I did not know that. I'm not going to use that.
Yeah, no, you've never seen. Yeah, if you've never seen The Warriors, one great movie, go watch it. But yeah, that's what happened. Same thing too with like that. I know like when the arrows kind of first started, a big popular one was that GIF of Leonidas like chopping all the arrows off the shield from 300. And that was another one where I'm like, the guys with the arrows like have like a dominant victory at the end of that movie, right? Like,
yeah,
like
but in that battle,
there's a reason why the sequel is
losers.
Yeah, no, the guys with the arrows win that war. They win the battle, but the guys with the arrows win that war.
All right, well, let's get back. So what do you guys feel about this Fire and Ice Cup? This relationship between Rugby ATL and the Arrows has kind of grown and developed, especially with them kind of being roomies. So it's a kind of fun little banter piece that will mean a little bit more for the game this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, I think like Toronto, Chris Silverthorne too in the press conference, he was very, like vocal of how like, just kind of like thankful they were to Rugby ATL and how, if it wasn't for them, then there's the possibility that, maybe the Arrows wouldn't have been able to play. And, it's a good, it's nice to see like, kind of, such a weird situation, but also kind of like a little bit of positivity coming out of it. I think though too, like some of these cup games, like the Texas Cup, or even like the Cuisine Solutions Cup, and now the Champagne Cup, and I'm sure Gilchrist is going to have some catchy thing for when Austin and LA finally play each other too. Like it kind of makes otherwise like typical regular season games feel a little bit bigger, like there's a little bit something extra to play for. So I like it. I like the idea of you can only win it like on the road in the previous holder stadium. It's kind of I think that's kind of a fun little element to it. Also kind of basically just ensures that they only play for it once a year, but because you only play for it once a year, it'll be a little bit more special than a game where it's like if they play twice in like 4 weeks and it changes hands twice in that time, and it's doesn't seem like as great. And so I kind of like that idea. And it's just some of those things that kind of make the like the game a little bit more fun. And we're a brand new league, and I think everybody's still trying to establish traditions and stuff. And to be honest, I don't think we've really had like a true proper rivalry in Major League Rugby yet. I just don't think there's been necessarily like that spark.
San Diego and Seattle might have something to say
Maybe,
about that.
but do they? I mean, maybe. But do you really feel like they hate each other? Like
I think that they hate each other. I think that they've played against each other enough to.
Yeah. Well, I mean, maybe we'll see what it looks like this year, but I but yeah, like I think so. It's like it's nice to kind of see like some of these games just kind of drum up a little bit of that extra, put a little extra spice on it. And um, Fire and Ice kind of it's a cool name. So kudos to whoever came up to that. Obviously, an avid reader or watcher of Game of Thrones. Well, I feel like there's a lot of MLR Game of Thrones reference. I know I'm part of that because I have a column called King of the North, but whatever. It was a popular show, and I guess people like to reference it. If Fire and Ice Cup is not a Game of Thrones reference, I'm very curious as to where that came
from. I think it's great. I think it can also be used as a means of like future planning. So say, for example, the league expands to 16 teams or 20 teams, and then we have to implement divisions. And obviously we've so far done the conferences based on geography, which means divisions will probably be based on geography as well. And we'll have, maybe Toronto and Atlanta will remain in the same conference, but not necessarily the same division. It means that when they do play, they may get rid of the rule of saying that it can only be won at the home stadium, because if it's a case of they only then go to play each other like once a year, then it will just be for that cup. But it's got an interesting name. The red and blue theme, I think, complements really well. The next day after we got the Fire and Ice Cup, we were told that LA and New York will be having this Champagne Cup, which should be interesting to say the least. I'm not sure about you guys. Have New York announced where they're playing?
I think they're playing in Jersey again.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, either way, it's this is a game that because it's probably the same in the Cuisine Solutions Cup. It can only be played once a year, so this game is going to be a for all the marbles, so to say, all the champagne.
All the champagne. Yeah. I like
Gil Payne.
Yeah. I like the Champagne Cup name just because Champagne Rugby is a frequently used term, and I kind of find that's kind of funny. It's a nice little
kind of tongue on cheek, especially with it being. LA.
That's what Gilchrist needs, man. He needs to, after this Gillies beer thing. He needs we need some Gil Payne.
Gil Payne. That's Gil what people Payne feel after losing to them. Gil Payne.
Yeah.
Do you want to know what's
Gil
really
Payne
interesting?
Sounds like a really bad comic book henchman character or something.
So this is something I've found out, is that now that fans have been allowed to go to the Coliseum and watch the Giltinis play, they have those inflatable Gillies cans off to the side. Fans can actually purchase alcoholic beverages. And in fact, they can purchase pre-made cocktails in a can. But none of them are Giltinis or even Gilgronis. Therefore,
I don't know if I want a martini or a Negroni in a can, though. Like, those aren't. I don't want a canned martini.
Martini.
Fine.
You just hear it's like a Guinness can. You could have that thing clicking around. It's an olive. Ugh. You don't really go to a rugby match and get a Negroni or
there's just like olives sitting in the can. It's like, the guy left it on the truck the night before.
No. All right, we're moving on, guys. We're finishing off with our predictions. LA versus New York, or New York versus LA, if you want to go home team.
Hold on, I'm looking at the records right now. How is
so right now Derek is in the lead right now. He's kind of cruising the wave off of week 6's 4-1. He's 20-16-1. Stu is still kind of lagging behind 15-21-1. And I am kind of I'm 500 right now. I had a good week last week, which brought me back up. I'm 18-18-1. The Toonie had a rough week. It is 9-7. Okay, Derek, who are you going with, LA or New York?
Champagne Cup. First Champagne Cup, man. It's a big one. I've said, I'm still saying what I've been saying the past couple of weeks is until they lose, even after they lose their first game, do you really have a reason to pick against LA right now?
Not this team.
Unless 7 of their star players get injured in that losing game. Yeah, I'm gonna have to say, it's LA.
Yeah, LA.
Get the Gil tummy ache right before the game. No, I'm going.
Then they're in Gil Payne.
Yeah, they'll have some Gil Payne.
All right.
What does the Toonie say?
So it's saying heads for home, tails for away. They are going with LA.
See, even the Toonie knows. Even the Toonie's why would I?
All right. NOLA versus Houston.
NOLA.
Going with NOLA.
NOLA at home. NOLA's good at home. NOLA at home.
Yeah. I'm going to go with NOLA as well. I think home advantage does play a big part, and they know the gold mine and the quagmire that it is. If it rains, it's definitely NOLA. But yeah, I'm going to go with
NOLA's a hard one because they've been tie, win, loss, win, loss, win, loss.
Yeah.
Win. But they've been tossing the wins and losses. It's very much Toronto Arrows circa 2019. So they're a hard team to kind of judge. And Houston has slowly been trying to put things together. So this is a really hard one for me. I really want to go with Houston. I'm gonna go with Houston. I'm gonna go with Houston. Why not?
Okay.
Gotta start take some chances.
The Toonie is going for Nola.
Nola, okay. New England versus Austin.
Oh
boy.
And this is in New England, isn't it?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they've only had one game in New England, haven't they?
And they beat Utah. Yeah, they beat them.
So undefeated at home, Stu, if that's factoring into your logic. The fortress that is New England.
Has Austin been on the road? When they lost to Utah, was that at home or was that away?
They lost to Utah at home.
At home. So I don't think Austin has been. Oh, they beat Nola in Nola.
In Nola, yeah.
So that's their only away game that they've had so far. I'm going with Austin. I don't know, guys. They're a team I can't bet against.
You know what, Dan? I'm going to go for Austin as well.
Oh, I thought you were going to be like, you know what, Dan? I'm picking New England.
No, that's Derek. Derek, it's your line.
In all honesty, just because I hate it when we all pick the same and for no other reason. So, and yeah.
You've got a little bit of a cushion, too. You can make some far out guesses.
I'll pick New England at home.
They're going to look like a genius if they win, too. Like, that's the thing. All right, Utah. Oh, yeah, sorry, Toonie.
Toonie is going for Austin.
Austin, okay.
Sucks, Toonie.
Okay, Utah versus
Toonie's
DC.
looking like a good week right now. Utah, DC. Ooh.
The standings.
I think if Tusitala and Robertson are kind of on their game, I feel like DC plays maybe a little too fast for Utah. So I'm going to go with DC.
Okay. It's two.
I think Utah have a good record at home, except for Seattle. And they're also coming off a bye week as well. And DC have just faced the absolute shellacking from LA. They're now in a training camp in Vegas. So I think it will be a close game, but I think it'll go the way of Utah.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Utah as well. I keep on thinking about that Te'o Cruze combo, and I just think that's a deadly combo right now. And with DC's back line still kind of hurting, I'm going with them.
And the Toonie goes for DC.
DC.
Internet connection making for a nice dramatic pause.
Yeah, that was dramatic. Okay, Toronto versus Rugby ATL.
Toronto.
Guys, this is really hard. This is a really, really hard game.
Oh, that's it.
I never said it wouldn't be a hard game. I just said I'm picking Toronto.
I'm gonna pick Toronto just because I feel like I don't want what happened to Stu happen to me. Yeah. I don't want that to happen to me. We're getting.
I think it'll be a good game though, man.
It's gonna be a great game.
like the way Atlanta plays. I really like their defense and the system that they've developed there. And I think much like the first game, it'll be a challenge. But I think now the Arrows attack has settled in.
I think they're very much a different team. There was a lot of handling mistakes that have been shored up.
Like that was. I feel like I think it'll be a good game.
And also we've got Montero and Tucalet.
It'll be a fun game. It'll be a good game, I think. But
hopefully Tucalet's not too banged up.
Yeah, all I'm hoping for is points scored in the second half, which we obviously didn't get in the first time.
All right, Toonie, who do you say?
The Toonie says Atlanta.
Ooh,
not a very Canadian Toonie.
Ooh. And the last game of the week, Seattle versus San Diego. This is it.
Hang on. Shall we start with the Toonie? Let's see.
Start with the Toonie. Yeah.
I actually need this insight and analysis here.
The Toonie goes for San Diego.
Oh, I'm going with Seattle then. If it comes down to two teams that aren't very good, I'm going to go with the team that I like. I want to cheer for, so I'm going with Seattle.
Ooh.
They've already done me dirty once. What's the odds they're going to do it twice?
I think Seattle have proven this week that they have that spark there, and they in New York were the two teams that Arrows put 50 past each, and New York was better than Seattle. But I think if Toronto was to play San Diego anytime before the bye week, they would put like 60 to 70 points past San Diego. So, and also home advantage, having the home crowd there to cheer you on, and even though it's like reduced capacity, the Seattle fans obviously make up enough noise that it feels like a full crowd's there. So yeah, I'm going to go with Seattle as well.
You know what? I've heard what Dan said. I've heard what Stu said, and I'm looking at our chart here, and I see that the Toonie has a better record than both of you guys. So,
yeah, but he also didn't have to deal with the crapshoot that was like the first 3 weeks of the league.
Okay, but his winning percentage is still better than you guys. The percentage. We're going.
I want to look at our winning percentage since he's joined the competition, and we'll see.
You do that, then you're the host.
That's a lot of work, though.
Yeah, exactly. So right now, I see
what
person in this podcast that is above 500 is the Toonie, and me. So I'm sticking with the Toonie. That's what's happening.
All right.
You didn't have an answer, and that's why you're waiting on the Toonie.
Yeah, no, exactly. I was waiting. Yeah. So San Diego it is.
All right, guys. Well, I think that's it for tonight's show. It's going to be quite the fireworks on Saturday with another full weekend of rugby. The Arrows have got a big game, and hopefully we will see a little bit of fire on the pitch.
Shouldn't we be hoping for ice? I think that's the implementation of the team in that game. No? All right, you're just going to shake my head. All right, I'm ending the podcast there.